Kia ora. Well, my calendar's telling me that it's winter. My trees are telling me that it's autumn. Perhaps it's time that I go to my aquariums and see what else might be out of step. Well, it's time to have a little update on my tanks and just see what I need to do to tune them in for better viewing and better living conditions for the fish. So this is my largest tank. It's basically a community tank, sand bottom, driftwood feature, mixed variety of plants, mixed variety of fish. I checked out the mystery snail and then had a look at the Java moss behind it, and I could see little white tufts coming out, and that rang alarm bells because I think that is blackbeard algae, BBA. I immediately put down the camera and pulled it out as best I could. I had an outbreak of that several years ago in one of my nano tanks. It started off exactly the same way on the moss, then spread to everything. One thing I did learn was that it really likes fast flow, no doubt plenty of nutrition, and this one is the same. It's in the flow of the filter outlet. So it's no doubt spread through the tank now. Some algae I do like, especially what's on the driftwood at the moment. It gives a really natural appearance. And the fish seem happy enough. You'll probably notice down the bottom there that ghost glass catfish with its crooked spine. More about that shortly. I've got an Argentine sword which has basically lost all its leaves, but it has got a new shoot coming up, so hopefully that will come away. Hair grass is also dying off. It has been getting 6 hours of light per day, and things are just not looking as they should be. So I've reset the number of hours for the light back to 8 hours. I've removed a lot of plants and things that I was floating on the top. These were for another tank, and I was just letting them get a bit of extra CO2 before they went in the other tank. But I've removed those now, and hopefully things will improve. I do run CO2, it's just off at the moment, but I don't run it heavy. I also have aeration during the night for about 3 hours. As you can see, I've got one bristle nose. So hopefully that bristle nose will be able to control the algae build-up. I've also got a mystery snail, and there will be a few other little pond snails in there which have come in from my other tanks. Now the filter system takes care of all the debris. The water flows fairly strong, and it does not allow debris to settle along the front. I have it coming from that corner across the front, and then it goes up back along the far side of the tank. This is my preferred direction of flow. I originally tried it the other way. I had it flowing along the back of the tank, but I found that all the stem plants got pushed into this corner, and this nice crypt that I've got here could not be seen. I worry a bit about food for the coolie loaches, so I probably tend to overfeed a little bit by adding in some sinking food early evening. And what I'm doing is waiting for some of the trees to drop their leaves so I can put some leaf litter down across the floor on the other side of the tank. That will provide some shelter for the coolies, and they might come out a bit more during the day. Now I've got 2 canister filters, one larger than the other, and the large one's on this tank, and my smaller one is on my smaller tank. but I might swap them over because the larger filter should really go on the tank that's going to have the larger bioload. The fish in this large tank don't tend to eat a lot, although I do have a couple of fairly large pearl gouramis. I find that the tiger barbs are on the go all the time and are effectively eating machines. So although both tanks have the same amount of food going in at the moment, as these tigers grow, I'm sure that they will be requiring more food. The more food going in, the more ammonia coming out. Therefore, I think the larger canister filter should be on the tiger tank. And it's going to be an easy job just to swap the hoses between the two tanks. Here we are 4 months ago, and I'd noticed that one of the ghost glass catfish was developing a curvature of the spine, a S shape. I suppose this is the fish equivalent of scoliosis, but it has been progressively getting worse. Now these fish are not young, and I'd earlier lost the third one that I had. I will eventually lose this fish, and no doubt its partner will pine away as well. Ideally I'd like to get a couple more and add them to the tank now, but they're fish that I just can't seem to get hold of at the moment. Currently it's unable to turn to its right, which is affecting its feeding ability, so I'm trying to target feed it as best I can. As it has a transparent body, I have noticed a couple of opaque areas developing. This is no doubt tissue damage. Another concern is my gouramis, as they tend to spook very easily. For example, a Cory might be at the far end of the tank, dive up to the surface for air, make a splashing sound, then next thing you know, the gouramis are going crazy. I just hope they don't injure themselves. Perhaps they're better suited to a more open landscape. Rather than have that as a shelter for them, maybe I should just expose them to more people movement and see if they'll be more comfortable in the tank after a period of time. Everything seems to be going fine in my tiger tank. It certainly needs a bit of a clean out, although it hasn't been set up that long, and I might even do a gravel vac next time. The crowns of the swords are starting to get covered by gravel, so I need to scrape that back. That will just help any new growth. I removed my large Cory to another tank as it was getting intimidated by all of the activity. So I just got the one small Cory, and I'm actually thinking that dwarf chain loaches might be a good match for this tank. Just a small group of say 5. Something to think about. This nano I call my dirted tank, and it's doing okay. I've moved in some guppies because the Rasbora were just a little on the shy side, as they are right at the moment. But I'm quite pleased. The dwarf sage and other plants are starting to grow. I need to get in there and just remove that cyanobacteria and algae on the bottom, and perhaps even give it a top up of fresh sand. Because of the algae growth, I've cut the lighting down from 8 hours to 6, and I'm using this work light. It's a 10 watt just basic LED, and I think that's making a big difference to the growth. 3 Corys call this fluval tank their home, and I've got 2 honey gouramis that like making babies. I discovered the first nest when I went to feed them, and I could just make out some little black wrigglers. These would later turn clear and be very difficult to see. They've been at this for over a month now, and unfortunately the male eats the young. Sometimes they do have a break. I was able to siphon off some of the young, and I'll put them into a mini tank where they can grow out. Spot them if you can. I started them off on egg yolk and then some First Bites dry powder, and I'm now about to give them a course of brine shrimp. So hopefully they will fatten up. And what about my third nano? So in here I've got a small group of mountain minnows and a couple of Cory catfish. What I'm going to do here is, it's got this fairly large piece of driftwood which I'll remove, and that'll go in my new tank. Whoa, did I just say new tank? Maybe that's my long-awaited river tank project. Find out about that in my next video. And I think that I'll convert this to a dirted tank. If we get a hot, dry summer and water's a bit scarce, then being able to stretch out water changes will be good. And the minnows gave me a surprise. 3 fry. I can understand why they get called the poor man's neon. Okay, that's it for now. I'm quite happy with the tanks as they are, but a few things do need to be done. And of course I've got the river tank to work on, and I hope to see you next week.